Greetings, CinemaBlend fans. I'm events editor Eric Eisenberg.
And I am staff writer Connor Schwerdtfeger.
And with the Avengers Infinity War now just a few weeks away from release, we are recapping all of the Marvel movies to date and seeing how they're going to influence the major Marvel blockbuster. Let's jump in. Last week, we talked about Marvel Studios' first film in 2011, but this week we are jumping into Joe Johnston's Captain America, the First Avenger, and of course the massive, the major, the long-anticipated team-up film known as Joss Whedon's The Avengers. And of course, these two movies have had a massive impact on the kind of road to Infinity War. So let's start by diving into the Star-Spangled Man, shall we?
Yeah, this is a big week. And Captain America, the First Avenger, chronologically the first Marvel movie, technically. Just on a personal note, Cap is my favorite Avenger, so I love this movie. Yes. But in terms of the groundwork that this lays for the Avengers, and then kind of spirals into future Marvel movies, this is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, obviously, the big thing is the introduction of the Tesseract, I would say, which...
Well, we have to talk about it. The Tesseract is the entire... it drives the entire plot of the film. Technically, the Tesseract makes its first appearance in the post-credits of Thor. Yeah. This is the first introduction of an Infinity Stone. Red Skull discovers it in Tornberg, Norway, back in the late 1930s.
Yep.
Uses it to power Hydra weapons. I don't think that he knows that it's exactly an Infinity Stone, but what is important is recognizing the power that it presents.
Like the audience, it's beyond everyone's understanding still at this point. I think First Avenger really lays out the idea of this is so far beyond even the most advanced science that we see in these movies.
Sure. To focus on the Red Skull of it all, though, it should also be mentioned that this is the movie that introduces Hydra as a super soldier force. Obviously, it becomes, or not super soldier force, but as a terrifying evil organization that winds up having a pretty massive influence in the future of this universe.
Arguably, the biggest big bad that we've seen so far, the most consistent on TV and as well as in the movies. Yep. It really ties into the fact that we get introduced to Bucky Barnes in this movie, which is a big deal going forward.
Yeah, because he becomes not only a Hydra spy, but he's what ties Captain America to his past, and that entire relationship really through that entire trilogy is such an important thing. And we just have to spend a moment also just specifically talking about Steve Rogers. I don't think anyone encapsulates the character on the level that Chris Evans really does.
I think he's the heart of the MCU at this point.
And he's the moral center for sure. Over the course of this entire franchise, he has gone from being I'm going to protect my country in the 1940s, very loyal
very
to the
golden
cause,
age of comics,
to being on the opposite end of that spectrum and starting to say can we trust it? Which sets up the division in Captain America: Civil War, which we'll obviously be talking about, which is where it sets the stage for obviously the Infinity War.
For that Nomad-esque Cap that we eventually see. Not quite Nomad, but eventually. So this is the beginning of that.
So, influence of Captain America: The First Avenger on Infinity War.
I gotta give this a good 8. It sets up a lot.
So, let's go from there. We're jumping from July 2011 to May 2012, where we finally get to see all of these heroes join together and on the big screen for the first time, which by itself is, of course, a massive milestone for this franchise.
Monumental. This brought Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and a slew of other supporting characters together, and it had never been done before. We take that for granted now.
While the words Infinity Stones is not mentioned in this movie, we actually get to see them.
We didn't know about it at the time.
We didn't know about it at the time,
but
however.
Inside of Loki's staff is the Mind Stone, which takes over Hawkeye.
Yep. It is worth mentioning, and this is presumably a question that is going to come up in Avengers Infinity War, is the fact that there is that special moment in the beginning of the third act of Avengers where Loki tries to use the Mind Stone on Tony Stark on the arc reactor. It doesn't work.
This usually works. All performance issues,
Why? I've been curious about that for the last 6 years. Seriously. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am expecting that to play a role in Infinity War.
I must take things at surface level. I just always thought because there was a barrier between his heart and
just
metal. We have to talk about the fact that this is the Battle of New York, which basically is probably thus far the biggest single event in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The Battle of New York sets everything in motion for what's to come.
We're still feeling the impacts of it on TV and film.
Exactly, and obviously Iron Man is hugely emotionally affected by basically PTSD from his experience in the cosmos, flying up there. But if we are talking about the Battle of New York, we are talking about Loki wielding an Infinity Stone and going after an Infinity Stone. We have to talk about the man who sent him on that mission, which is, of course, the Mad Titan Thanos. It was really in 2012 where we officially learned, like,
when he
this is where
turns
they were
around
going.
and gives that little grin.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
In that mid-credit sequence, it's a
so good.
massively important moment,
Yeah.
to the point where I am just going to say, as far as this movie's like rating out of 10 to how it leads to Infinity War, there's no other score to give it other than a 10. People, if you're gonna go see Infinity War, see the Avengers first.
Do it.